Hey, I'm Nick.
And I'm Ally.
And this is the But Have You Tried bookshelf from the David A. Howe Public Library. Allison, how the heck are you?
Pretty good. Toasty, but
Good.
otherwise
Toasty.
fine.
Feeling
Well,
warm.
right now I'm okay.
Okay.
This room is a pretty fine temperature,
Thank
but
you.
outside,
Thanks.
very toasty.
Yeah, I can't keep up. I'll tell you what else I can't keep up with. Seasonal allergies.
Oh, man.
I recognize this is not interesting to people, but I got to tell you, I'm suffering. I'm suffering over
Have
here.
you tried off-brand Zyrtec? This is
I
not
know
a
you
paid
recommended
promotion.
it. I know you recommended it, and I do have an off-brand allergy medicine that is taking the edge off. But man, this is the longest I've gone without sneezing in weeks.
That's horrible.
So we'll see if I make it the whole episode.
That's so bad.
So-
You know, I have been taking my off-brand Zyrtec daily for I want to say 6 to 9 months
I'm
at this
concerned
point.
about you. We're getting to an intervention kind of point because it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time, but I'm scared to stop at any point. Obviously now is not the time to
Right.
stop. We're in the middle of
Right.
allergy season.
There's a
But
lot
in
of
the
red
middle of the
flags.
summer or
A
in the
lot of red
winter, I'm
flags.
I feel like it would make sense to stop taking this.
Yeah.
But also I'm scared that if I stop, I'll immediately have
Yikes.
horrible allergies. It's
Okay.
maybe a little rational. But I will say, the other night I woke up in the middle of the night and my ear and my the back of my throat, nose area were tickling
Ooh.
crazy.
No.
Intense tickling.
No.
And I was ouch, I'm taking medicine for this. What is happening
Yeah.
here?
Maybe you built up a tolerance.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's because I'm taking it too much.
You definitely are taking it too much. All jokes aside. But I'm in that point where my nose and my lip, I'm just very raw from blowing my nose all the time.
Man.
It's not pleasant. I just want to enjoy summer.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's spring and fall are the best seasons. And
Yeah.
it's also the seasons where it's be
where-
ready to
where
feel
the
sick
world
all the time.
attacks you. I
Yeah.
know. It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. Well, all right. Well, let's dive into some bookshelf topics. What have you been doing in the last month since last we touched on this? Are you? Let me ask movies. Let's get that out of the way because that's always a hard one for you.
Well, I feel usually movies is at least a little consistent, but I do not actually think I've watched a single movie this month.
In a month's time, you haven't watched a single movie.
And maybe I have, and I just didn't remember it because I forgot to put it on Letterboxd, like I said I would do at the start of the year.
You did promise that, yeah.
I did put some
That was
of
a
some
New
of the
Year's
movies
resolution of yours.
that I've watched onto Letterboxd, but not all of them.
Okay.
Well, see, I've done a number of things in the last month that I don't normally do. My friends and I went to Niagara Falls for the weekend last weekend.
Mm.
My one friend had never gone before.
Okay.
And so we were let's make a little trip of it.
Yeah.
And I also went to a friend's baby shower, which was a ways away, which took, again, most of a weekend.
Sure.
And the weekend is really when I watch movies.
That's your movie time.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
it's been
All right.
not a movie month.
That's fine. I continued my journey through the Mad Max movies, and I've now seen them all, the original 3, Fury Road, and the new Furiosa.
So you're practically an expert.
Yes, but I've learned that I don't care for the Mad Max movies.
That's a shame.
So, yeah. I watched Fury Road under strong opposition. Didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? But my friend convinced me. And I did end up really liking it. And I was excited about Furiosa. The original 3 did nothing for me. Beyond Thunderdome is just kooky and has sort of a Peter Pan energy that I don't fully get.
Peter Pan, but in a bad way.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose so. And Furiosa, I mean, just, who has ever said, yes, please, we want a prequel? It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it had some prequel issues, and I just didn't think it was as visually stunning or as thematically interesting as Fury Road. So,
Yeah.
I watched a disastrous movie that I was hoping would take that turn where it's yeah, this is weird, but I'm liking it. And that was the movie Madam Web with Sydney Sweeney and Dakota Johnson. And it just, from the get-go, makes no sense. And it never really solidifies into a place where it's I'm having a good time with this. It's very weird.
Yeah, I have heard that that's a very strange watch.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch it almost because of that, but also I'm is that how I want to spend my time?
What I have heard, and I this is just internet scuttlebutt, was that the original plan was the whole thing was about trying to prevent the birth of Spider-Man.
Huh.
And the birth of Spider-Man is an element in the movie, and the main villain all of his lines are re-recorded after the fact. It's very obvious that like they went in and had him say different words. And so I believe it. I believe that was the point originally, that they were trying to prevent the birth of Spider-Man. And it pivoted to the three characters that you see in the trailer, Sydney Sweeney and the others, are eventually going to kill this guy or win in a battle. And he decides he's going to go back and kill them before they can do that.
Oh,
so
man.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Like
ever.
With time travel?
Well, there's like, he's seeing visions in the future. Madam Web is seeing visions in the future. And it just never gels. And I think it's because they tried to rewrite the movie in post-production.
Yeah, that seems like a bad idea.
And it is. And it's, it's been pretty universally... Oh, you got so excited.
I just remembered a movie I watched, but we're going to finish talking about Madam Web first.
No, I just really think that if it was that plot that they're trying to prevent the birth of Spider-Man, like that could be kind of cool.
Right.
And it just doesn't come together ever. Ever. I just don't have anything positive to say about it.
Sad.
And I like Sydney Sweeney and I like Dakota Johnson. I like Emma Roberts. I like Adam Scott. I mean, there's a lot of good people in this
You'd
cast.
think it would be good. You'd think.
It's just not there. So that's it. But tell me, what's this movie you watched?
Okay. It's called Once Upon a Crime.
Okay.
And the pitch of the movie is Little Red Riding Hood hunts criminals who commit crimes in fairy tales. And she goes to a ball with Cinderella and solves a murder mystery.
Okay. What kind of, what are we looking at? Like, what's the style here?
So it's originally a Japanese movie.
Okay.
But I don't know if it was dubbed or what, because the entire time I was watching, because I was like, oh, okay, this must be a dubbed movie. But I was watching their mouths. And they were mouthing the words
in English. Like English words. Oh, okay.
But they did not actually match up with the English recorded words. So I was extremely fascinated by what process brought that about.
Maybe they decided accents were too thick or something.
Maybe, I don't know. But the reason I remembered this movie was because you were saying the thing about how you can tell the re-recording with them saying different words.
Yeah.
And it was very strange to see. It's they are saying the same words, but just not timed right.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting movie. The whole tone of it was very different than I expected, because the way that we tell stories in the West is not always the same as elsewhere in the world. But it was pretty fun. Little Red Riding Hood solved a murder, and I'm down for that premise.
It sounds fun.
Yeah. I had a good time.
Okay. I obviously didn't leave a lasting impact on you, but you watched it, and that's what's important.
Yeah. This is why I need to be using Letterboxd.
You do. My feature movie is an oldie but a goodie, and it's Sister Act 2. Have you seen Sister Act 2?
I have not.
Have you seen Sister Act 1?
I have not.
You know who Whoopi Goldberg is? Oh, boy.
I know the name Whoopi Goldberg.
No. I need to sit down. She's Guinan in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Okay. Yeah,
there you go.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Anyway, Sister Act 2 came out when I was a kid. My best friend, Rochelle, she had it memorized when we were kids and listened to the soundtrack all the time. So I have a lot of nostalgia attached to it. We watched it with our son, and he really liked it. And then, just coincidentally, there's a big Sister Act 2 reunion thing happening.
Oh, that's
where
cool.
They all, a bunch of the cast was on The View, and they talked about the movie and sang some of the songs and stuff. Very fun.
It does sound fun.
You would like the Sister Act movies, I'm quite sure.
I probably would.
I don't know who wouldn't like the Sister Act movies. I'd like to meet that person.
Fair enough. I was at a movie night a little while ago with several of our coworkers from the library.
Yes.
And we almost watched one of the Sister Act movies, but then we chose to watch Waitress instead, but not the musical, Waitress the movie.
I've seen that.
And I think every single one of us regretted that decision.
That movie, it's Kerry Russell, it's Nathan Fillion, both great, both fun to watch. Mm-hmm. They have good chemistry, but it's
very depressing.
He's just cheating on his wife, and it's
and
no
her husband is horrible. It does not feel justified.
No, it doesn't.
It was very strange. Also, just the tone of it at certain points, I was like, "What is even happening?"
Yeah. Nobody's learning lessons or anything either. It's just sort of They just kind of, and then there's she sings this really weird song about gonna bake a pie. I remember that. It's very. I watched this when it came out, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a weird time.
I don't know the musical, but I like Sarah Bareilles, so I feel like it would
be... We were all like, well, we should have just watched the musical
probably.
Instead. That probably would have been fine.
You probably should have watched Sister Act instead.
Probably we should have, yeah.
Okay.
It's too late now.
Has your TV watching been more inclusive?
My TV watching has been more inclusive.
Okay.
So I've watched actually I want to say maybe a record number of TV shows this month.
Okay.
So
lay them on me.
All right. Well, I watched the first episode of the Star Wars Acolyte show.
Oh, I'm 2 episodes in.
You're 2 episodes in. You're ahead of me. What are you thinking so far?
I really liked it.
I really liked the first episode.
I'm so deadened to like new Star Wars content at this point that I was
You're
like,
dead inside.
it was out and we had time and I was like, oh, let's just watch this. And I was like, okay, all right. I was intrigued.
Yeah.
I like
yeah,
the
I also
mystery
felt
element.
very like,
I like the characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very whatever about watching it too, but I was like, sure, may as well.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, this seems pretty
Yeah.
interesting. So I'm optimistic.
I was pretty invested in episode 2 as well, so I'm hoping that the
Nice.
streak continues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still salty that the Ahsoka show was not actually really about Ahsoka, but
And not
That's-
great either, in my humble opinion.
I enjoyed many of the episodes, but like the overall arc was very much like we fixed one problem and
Yeah.
we created 3 more problems.
Yeah, true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one, The Acolyte.
I watched a couple of episodes of Leverage with my family. Have you seen Leverage?
I know what it is, but no, I don't think I've ever seen a
feel like
frame
you would
of that
like
show.
Leverage.
Isn't there like a reboot now?
There is a reboot.
Okay.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
Because I have not
They're
technically
like,
seen
it's like
the end of the
heisty?
show.
Am I right? Okay.
It's like there's 5 people who are on a crew and they all fill different roles.
Okay.
And they do heists. And it's very
Yeah.
Robin Hood-y. It's like they heist
Oh.
evil guys and like help people that the evil
Okay.
guys hurt, basically.
Okay.
So if someone's like, oh, this company, whatever, they're not being safe with their planes, and so my husband died in a crash, and so then they like take down the plane guy and give the money
Give
to
her
the
money or
wife. Yeah.
something. Oh, okay. That's
It's
fun.
pretty fun.
All right.
And it's fairly lighthearted.
Maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
You should.
Leverage.
I also rewatched some of the early episodes of Gilmore Girls.
Oh.
I was, for some reason that I could not account for, I was filled with a strange desire to rewatch
Is it
Gilmore
because
Girls.
we have that new Gilmore Girls picture book in the library?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have to say that was it.
Did it hold up?
Actually, it was very different watching it as an adult, which I kind of didn't expect because the last time I watched any of it, I was like
Yeah.
a teenager.
Yeah.
And I like didn't think that I was like relating more to Rory than to Lorelai, but apparently I was because it comes across very different
Yeah.
as like a 24-year-old
Yeah.
than like a 15-year-old or whatever.
I loved Gilmore Girls when it was on. Like, I watched it, and I remember so clearly, like, watching the finale. And, it takes some zigs when I wish it would have zagged along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I really hated that Netflix revival, like the 4 little episodes.
Oh, I
Did
did
you
watch
those?
that, even though I didn't actually finish watching Gilmore Girls.
Oh, okay.
Because,
And?
I don't know, I make weird choices. It made some weird choices. Like, it was an enjoyable watching experience, but it definitely made some weird choices.
I felt like it was like, let's just go ahead and make Rory a monster. Rory's a monster now.
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
I didn't like that.
That was a little weird.
I've purposely stayed away from that because I don't think it would hold up on a rewatch.
Fair enough.
I would love to be wrong, but that's how I feel. I don't think I'll revisit.
I'm kind of
But-
curious to see, like, if I'll be inclined to, like, keep going with it and, like, watch. Because I was watching it with my family,
Yeah.
and we got, like, maybe a season or 2 in. We didn't get all that far.
Dean, just go away, Dean.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. He, like, starts out okay-ish, and definitely it just is more, like, more
Yeah.
obnoxious the
Yeah.
more time goes by.
Yeah. I was always Team Jess.
I don't
You
know. I don't.
You're not a Jess fan? Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you going to go? You Logan?
No.
Dean?
None of them seem
Oh,
like
you're
good
just
options.
like, just
They're
Rory, do your
all-
own thing.
they're
Rory,
all
just
bad.
go to Yale and live your life. Okay.
Well, it's like I'd be fine with her having a boyfriend who wasn't sus, but they're all a little sus in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's interesting. Anyway, I would like to hear how this goes.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated.
You're leaving one off the list.
I am leaving
and
one off the list.
No, I know you're secretly
I will.
hedging, but
I know.
think
I will
you
talk
need to
about
be
it.
honest
I will
with the
talk
good
about it.
people.
Okay.
You're actually blushing right now, but yeah, go ahead. Tell me.
Listeners, I have an embarrassing confession
Go
to
ahead.
make.
Go ahead. It's a safe spot.
After previously going on record on this podcast
Yeah.
saying that Bridgerton is a crime against
Not gonna
humanity,
do it, yeah.
well, mostly a crime against period
yes,
films.
Yes.
I was filled with curiosity about Bridgerton. I think because the newest season just dropped recently.
Yeah, it's been
and so like
everywhere.
my social media feed is just like
Yeah.
full of it all of a sudden, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm kind of interested. Like, let's see what this is like. I did watch the entire first season,
Okay.
and I did watch it rather quickly because it's like once you get going in the story,
Yeah.
you want to find out what happens.
Yeah.
And I still maintain all of the criticisms that I said about it before, but I did actually enjoy it.
Okay. I was waiting for that, but I mean, I unapologetically I like soapy things,
Fair enough.
And I watched my wife and I watched the first episode of Bridgerton, and she cares much more about like period piece kind
Right.
of stuff than I do. And I probably would have continued it, but she was like, "No, I don't. This is not for me." And so, we just kind of dropped it there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're saying maybe there's some stuff, it's fun.
I feel
know?
like once I was able to be like, all right, this isn't really a period piece. It's
Yeah.
almost like an alternate world. Because
Yeah,
I mean, like,
sure.
like in terms of the racial diversity, it very much is
Of
an
course.
alternate world. Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting. And so once I was able to be like, okay, we're going to accept that like modern music is being played by the orchestras and the costuming is not correct at all. And the like social norms are close, but pretty off. And the diversity thing is obviously not how things were.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, we can enjoy this.
Yeah. I still think you would enjoy the Buccaneers on Apple.
Someday I need to.
So
get Apple because there's a bunch of things.
That I'm not gonna force you to recommend Bridgerton, but understanding that I like soapy things, do you think there's enough in there for me to enjoy?
I think you might enjoy it.
Okay. You think you're gonna watch season 2?
I will, but I think I need to wait because I'm too busy right now. Summer reading program is coming.
Oh my gosh.
Well, see, part of the reason that I don't always watch a lot of shows is I usually watch them with other people because if I watch them by myself, I will binge watch them and do nothing else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really have time to binge watch right now, so I need to like not.
Got it.
Not be starting a new season until I have time.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us posted.
I will.
I think everybody's on pins and needles now. Speaking of shows you watch alone, I have been not rewatching. I've been getting back into Modern Family, which I watched for a long time and then got away from it. And so I'm watching I finished season 8 because I stopped like midway through season 8 back when it was on. And now there's 3 more seasons, 9, 10, and 11.
Oh my gosh.
It's a long running show.
That's a lot of seasons.
And I think my criticism with Modern Family is that it's all pretty much the same, every episode is essentially the same. Like, these are how these people behave, so here's another situation to put them in and see how it unfolds. But there's a lot of comfort in that also, and the cast is so tight, they're so strong, like all very funny, all good actors, so like I enjoy it, but it's one that I kind of tire of, and that's how I was feeling about Blackish, which was my previous, this is the one I binged by myself. So I popped over to Modern Family, and once I tire of this shtick, I'll go back to Blackish.
I think that works pretty well.
Yeah, it's a nice, happy, pleasant time. I find Modern Family to just be pleasant always, so, and that's
it's nice to have something that you can count on to be pleasant.
Yeah, it's
the worst when you're watching something or reading a book and you're like, this is mostly pleasant, and then all of a sudden it's here's a dark turn. It's well, where's my go-to pleasant experience?
I could be convinced to rewatch Parks and Rec. I've never fully rewatched it, and I could do that. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen maybe 2 episodes of Parks and Rec.
I think you could get into that. I think you could. Yes, I also watched Star Wars Acolyte, and I watched Star Trek Discovery. I just can't recommend that show. There have been episodes. There was even an episode this season that I was like, yes, this is a good episode. It's good sci-fi. I've enjoyed it. But I just think overall, whatever it is, the writers, whoever, just really leaned into sentimentality in a way that it's just obnoxious to watch. It's just all about them being best friends in a way that's just syrupy sweet, and I don't buy it.
That does feel a little weird.
And they tend to make the Michael Burnham character, who she's eventually the captain, they make her, it's not an ensemble show. It thinks it is. It puts vibes out that it's look at this great ensemble, but she's the only one with the storyline, and it's not an interesting storyline to me. So I hate to rag on Star Trek, and I'm not going to be it's not Star Trek or anything like that, but it's just soundly not for me.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. I think the first season is problematic, but has some really great... There's moments in the first season that I still am this was such a great thing to happen. It's such a cool... Things I didn't see coming. Character dynamics that were wholly new to the franchise, which I appreciate. But, I don't think I'd ever be you know what? Watch Star Trek Discovery.
I mean, there's a lot of Star Trek.
There's
a lot of things that you could pull as a recommendation first.
And if I had to recommend a new Trek show, it would be Strange New Worlds, because it's just so good.
Do you think you would ever tell someone to start with one of the new Trek shows, or just if someone has no experience with Star Trek, would your recommendation always be one of the older ones?
That's a really tough question. I think if somebody who truly has never seen Star Trek and doesn't have any nostalgia for it, I think I would say watch Strange New Worlds, because it's one of those things where if you know Star Trek lore, there's fun things in there for it, but I think you could go in blind and be pretty happy with it. So yeah, I would say that. And I think I might go original series, even though it's old and some of the episodes really feel long. That core dynamic, the Kirk, Spock, McCoy chemistry, I think is just so good. And I think it's old enough now that the retro vibes would play well in a way that sometimes I think Next Gen feels a little schmaltzy, that you might not gravitate towards.
I feel like you definitely have to You have to be in the right headspace for next gen. You have to know what to expect.
Yeah, true. Very true. Now, last time we did tease that we're going to do a Pride Month book club, and it's coming though with some caveats. You'll have to decide if what I've done is acceptable. But let's save that for the end because I want to hear what other things you've been reading in this last month. So lay it on me. Okay. What do you got?
So I finished reading Men at Arms, which is a Discworld book that took me way too long for no good reason.
Oh yeah, you were trapped in this one, weren't you?
I know. Well, and I was enjoying it. It was just like I wasn't like sitting down to read a huge chunk of it at once. I was just like reading little pages here and there when I had a few minutes. Because again, I've been kind of busy. But I finished it and I was like, now I can start new books.
Yeah.
Which has been exciting. So I started reading Enola Holmes and the Mark of the Mongoose by Nancy Springer. This is the newest of the new series.
Okay.
So there was like 6 books of the old series, which came out when I was in like high schoolish, which I really enjoyed then. And then there's 3 now of the newer series, and this is the newest one. I'm really enjoying it, but like it is talking about rabies a lot more than I want to think about rabies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, rabies is no good.
I've had to relegate it to a not during lunchtime book. For a while it was my like, I'm eating my lunch and I'm reading this book, and then I was like, there's too much rabies while I'm eating right now.
I had to get rabies shots once. Have you ever had to do it?
I don't think so.
Pleasant. It's not pleasant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. I didn't have rabies in the
That's
end.
good.
Or
That's
maybe
good.
I did and they cured it. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Who's to know?
I did when I was a kid. My sister and I buried a dead bat with our friends on the playground. I'm sure my dad has told you this story.
I have heard this story. Yeah.
And we didn't think anything of it because we were kids and we were like, this poor dead bat. Yeah. We must bury it and hold a proper funeral.
Yes.
And then we came home and honestly, like, it's the kind of thing that like we might just never have mentioned to our parents, but it so happened that we did. And my dad did not make us get rabies shots, but he did like ask. I think they might have like. I think someone from the town might have like gone and dug up the bat and like. I don't even know. It was a whole thing, but my dad was very concerned and he was like, never touch a dead bat or really a live bat again.
Yeah. Do you know my rabies story?
Was there like a bat in your house?
There was a bat in our house. We were doing renovations on the upstairs and somehow a bat got in. And we were asleep and we heard some noise. And then the next thing I know, my wife is like, blah! And I wake up and she has a bat just on her face.
Oh my gosh.
She wakes up with a bat on her face. And so since it was like in our bed and you can't always tell if you got bit or just whatever. And I wasn't thinking, and we caught it in the sheets, and I just I threw it outside because it was like the middle of the night, and I was like, oh, we probably should have. So we had to, it was the 4th of July.
Oh my gosh.
So like everything was closed.
Great.
So we had to go to the ER and get rabies shots, and then we had to go and get boosters for the next, weekly, I think. And the boosters were like super chilled, and so it really hurt to get the shots.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Very unpleasant.
Bad times. Probably better than having rabies, I would say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But still a bad time.
Yep.
You know, I like bats, but I think I would not be okay with waking up with a bat on my face.
Fluttering on your face.
No.
Yeah. We were also like, that's such weird behavior for a bat. We really had to take it seriously. So.
Yeah. Yikers. Bad times.
So all that to say, there's a lot of rabies in Enola Holmes.
More rabies than I expected and more rabies than I wanted, but I will still finish the book.
That reminds me, I read 2 out of 3 of those Mycroft Holmes books.
Oh, yeah?
I got to get back. I just got to read the last one sometime.
Might as well.
Throw it on the list, yeah. They introduced Sherlock, and I didn't like that. That's what dulled me. Anyway, anything else book-wise?
I also started reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, okay.
And I've read his Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarian series, which is like a junior level series, which I really enjoyed. And my brother absolutely loves Brandon Sanderson. Yeah. Like so much. Yeah. So much. And I also have watched a little bit. Brandon Sanderson has this like lecture series on writing that's on YouTube that you can just watch. Oh. And I was like, naturally, I'm intrigued by this. All right. So I've watched some of it. And some of the stuff that he said about this book in the lecture series, I was like, well, that sounds intriguing. But it is like a massive fantasy book, which is usually not my MO. Yeah. And so I am apprehensive about how I'm going to do, but I'm going to, especially because it took me so long to read that Terry Pratchett book that was small.
I've never heard a negative word spoken about Brandon Sanderson.
He truly is like the best.
I've only heard like positive reviews of his stuff, so yeah, maybe one of these days. I read about half of the Evil Librarian, like the first of the Evil Librarian series. I was reading it out loud to my son, and I think we just got away from it. But, you know, I mean, I was enjoying it, but that's my only experience with his work.
Fair enough.
So.
There are some that he has that are not like the most massive book you've ever seen. Yeah. So if you want to start with one, but not have it be the most massive book you've ever seen.
All right.
There are some options.
Got it. Okay. That sounds like a pretty good haul that you've got going on. I finished a Robert B. Parker book, one of the Spencer books called Widening Gyre. and I just didn't enjoy it. I liked the character work. There was him, and there was he sort of adopted, unofficially, a kid in one of the earlier books, and the kid comes back in this book and is like in college, and we're like touching base with this character. So all the stuff that was just character work with Spencer and Paul, I really liked. But he was like a bodyguard for a conservative politician that was hiding this dark secret, and it was just all the political stuff. I was just like, I'm not interested. I don't want it.
Fair enough.
So disappointed. I started reading a book called Eruption, which is based on, like, I don't even know how much Michael Crichton wrote, but based on like a story concept by Michael Crichton and like finished and worked into a full novel by James Patterson. I don't know if you've ever read either of these authors, but I can't think of two authors that are more different than Crichton and Patterson.
Fair enough.
And so I don't know why they would choose James Patterson to do this. When they
because he does everything.
Yeah, I guess. But when they've done like posthumous Crichton stuff, like he had one called Micro, they chose an author who wrote in that genre to finish it. And same with when they did the sequel to Andromeda Strain, Andromeda Evolution, they chose an author who writes in that vein at least. But Patterson and Crichton is so weird. And I'm not too deep into it. I'm probably a third of the way through. And I'm enjoying it, but it's strange because I see some Crichton hallmarks in it, but stylistically it's very James Patterson, and it's just odd. I can't imagine anybody who's a diehard Crichton fan walking away from this feeling like, wow, a new Michael Crichton. If anything, it's off-putting. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, James Patterson, he's got his,
love him or hate
his
him,
thumbs in every pie.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually read a single James Patterson book. And is it because of my personal vendetta against him that it's really hard to shelve his section of the library because there are so many?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It could be.
Maybe. That could be part of it.
Yeah. I mean, he's perfected what he does, and he's given a lot to libraries and particularly small bookstores and, all these authors that got their start like co-writing with James Patterson. I mean, I feel like it'll be interesting to see what, I don't know, literature or publishing or whatever thinks of the James Patterson model in like 50 years. If they look back and be like, wow, look at that.
I mean, I'm just like a little annoyed for the shelving purposes, but like truly just impressed by the sheer number. Like some of them he's co-written, but like even the ones that he's just only written, there's like a million of them.
There's a lot.
Like I don't know how the guy has time for it.
It is a really interesting thing because I've read a lot of the Alex Cross books, which are just James Patterson, and I read a decent amount. Like I read the NYPD Red series and just other random ones, and it is weird how they do all feel like James Patterson novels. So he's got to be doing something. I don't think he's just farming it out and putting his name on it. I don't know. It's bizarre. But this is certainly a weird pairing.
Yeah,
and
that's
so we'll
fair.
see how I feel at the end of it, but I don't know. Graphic novels?
I have not been reading any graphic novels. I do have an America Chavez book at home on my nightstand that I'm planning to start soon.
All right.
But I did read the Lore Olympus finale in the webtoon.
Finale. Okay.
I know. I've been following this webtoon for like
years at
years.
This point, right?
I want to say like 5 years or something like that at this point. And I was a little behind because the most recent season has a ton of political stuff. And when you're reading one episode a week, it's a little hard to keep track of. So I was batch reading them. But the last one came out like a Saturday or so ago. And so I like made sure I was caught up. And then I read it. And I feel slightly in shock that it's done.
Yeah,
because I've been
that's
following
weird.
it for so long. It's like probably the closest experience I've had to like watching TV that comes out live and like following it, because they do come out at certain times and they'll go on break at certain times and everything. So I don't know. Feels
Congratulations
weird.
on reaching the end.
Thank you.
I think I've read the first 2 like collected volumes and enjoyed it. So maybe I'll check back in now that it's complete.
It's a good series.
Okay, Lore Olympus. I started a series by Robert Kirkman called Firepower. Have we talked about this?
Maybe.
Okay, well,
it sounds vaguely familiar.
It's called Firepower. It's by Robert Kirkman and illustrated by Chris Samney. And it is about this character who he's trying to sort of explore his roots, and he goes and finds out all this backstory about his family, and it turns out that he's the one with the firepower, and he's destined to save the world, and he wants nothing to do with that destiny. So he tries to live just like a normal life, but he's sort of exposed as this fire wielder. And so now people from this really kind of other world are sort of coming at him in his normal life. And he's like, okay, well, I can't do this anymore. So he's trying to sort of balance both sides of it. I don't know. It's unlike anything I've read. I'm intrigued by it, and I'm following it. It's not all out yet, so I'm sort of following it as it comes, and I'm liking it.
Nice. I
think it's hard to break into that world sometimes, like the sustained graphic novel worlds. I think Paper Girls did it. Saga, by Brian K. Vaughan, also a good example. But this, it's just a unique thing, and I'm enjoying it. I'm invested.
I think that stories that interact interestingly with the idea of like a destiny or a chosen one are always really interesting. It's like, oh, you have these abilities, and then because like I feel like what we normally expect is kind of like a almost Harry Potter like story to play out, something like that. Yeah. But I think anytime it's like, oh, I was supposed to save the people, but I failed, or something like that, I think that's really interesting territory to explore.
Yeah, it is. Music? What kind of music do you listen to?
I have been listening to the Rolling Stones in preparation for our next episode.
Okay. All right, well, tell me.
What?
Are you sticking with Beggar's Banquet, or have you listened to...
So I listened to a little bit of Beggar's Banquet, and I need to come back because I think I was like listening to it and then I had to stop before I got to the end of the album. So I need to make sure I listen to the second half of the album and just like take it in a little more.
Yeah.
But I did start listening to some of Hackney Diamonds.
Okay.
But I haven't tried the on-air one
yet.
Yeah.
And that was just a bonus. That
well, I figured since it was a bonus and also like a little bit of a weirder one, that it would make sense to save for later and not like start with the weird one. I
have to remember to stalk you on Discord and see what you're listening to.
That's true.
So I know. I've been listening to a lot of Ben Folds. He has a new album called What Matters Most, and it's good. It's cool. I like it a lot. We're going to go see him in concert later this month.
Nice.
So I'll report back. All right, so let's do it. We talked about June is Pride Month. We've got some cool displays up, some cool programming going on, and Ally and I are reading some Pride Month specific titles. We were both going to read one together, and then I ran out of time, and so I pivoted to one that was on my list anyway, and I did do that. Are you greatly disappointed in me?
Not really. Only jokingly disappointed.
A little bit of disappointment, though. I think something in your eyebrows.
Well, I think the only reason I had time to read this was because I was audiobooking it.
Oh.
And so I was like down in the stacks moving stuff around.
Okay.
Doing my dishes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me what you read, because this is the one we keyed up.
Okay, so I read Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher,
yes.
which is like a medieval rom-com. I wasn't sure what exactly to expect from like the setting because it very much was presenting medieval but also had some more modern energy, and it's very much like A Knight's Tale is kind of the vibe.
You can't go wrong. I love A Knight's Tale.
And like the farther I got, the more I was like, yeah, this really reminds me of A Knight's Tale. And it's like, I think on the cover the like little comparison is like Heartstopper meets A Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
And I really think that's fairly accurate.
Okay. All right.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good book. It definitely it has like, so the main characters, Gwen and Art, are engaged to be married.
Okay.
But neither of them wants to marry the other one.
Okay.
And they end up having kind of like a fake dating scheme, but it's like fake dating so that they can help each other get with their queer crushes sort of a situation.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a fun play, because usually it's like as soon as people are fake dating, it's like, well, they're going to fall in love.
Yeah.
And I think the concept of doing that and have that not happen is really fun.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a really fun book. But then at the end, some like dramatic, like political stuff started happening. And there was definitely some stuff that like kind of teased at the beginning in terms of like, oh, the prince, here's how he feels about becoming king someday and stuff like that they kind of messed around with. And I was expecting that to just be kind of like a baseline tension throughout the book, and not that they would like actually be like, we're gonna really interrogate this, but they really interrogated that at the end, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I was not expecting it.
Okay. So it kind of kept you invested the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love a good male-female platonic friendship.
I know.
And I feel like that's a thing that's not super explored all that often. So
it's like it's explored for a while, and then it's like the show writers are like, and they're going to fall in love this season or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But I always think that's a cool dynamic, because I think it just brings out different things in those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a good, moving a story forward. I think that's a fun way to do it. So you recommend it?
I recommend. I had a good time.
And we have it here in the collection. I know we also have it on Libby, so people can check it out that way.
It does have a little more violence than you would expect from the type of book it is.
Yeah,
I don't think it's not like a horrible amount, but for those who care about that, be prepared, I guess.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good to know. I read a decent chunk of it. I read probably the first, 3 or 4 chapters, and was truly enjoying it. And then I could see the writing on the wall when we were going to record this, so I was like, I better switch. So I read one called Bad Dream, and this is by Nicole Maines with art by Rye Hickman. It just came out in April of 2024. And it's following a character called Nic and Ally, who was introduced in the Supergirl TV series in 2018. And she's played by Nicole Maines in the show, and then Nicole Maines has been writing this character in
That's
DC
cool.
Comics since, which I think is cool, and we're sort of seeing that more and more.
Yeah, because isn't Iman Vellani writing some of the
Yes,
Ms. Marvel
Ms.
stuff
Marvel.
now?
Yeah, she is. So this was an interesting character in the Supergirl show, and really was kind of a standout for me in the later seasons because I feel like that show went off the rails. But the character was introduced as a descendant of a DC character called Noura Nal, who was Dream Girl in the Legion of Superhero stories, like in the 60s and things like that. It was a huge deal when this came out because she was the first transgender superhero to like be seen on TV and be a series regular and be in a show like Supergirl. So it was like a big deal at the time. And again, very cool character. She first appeared in comic book form in a short called Date Night, which was also written by Nicole Maines, in DC Pride #1 from 2022. And then she showed up in the mainstream continuity in Superman Son of Kal-El #13. And I did a staff pick of the Superman Son of Kal-El series. So if you follow us on TikTok or Instagram, you may have seen that. But this book is kind of its own continuity, and it's just about the character. It's kind of an origin story. And in the series, these dream powers are passed on amongst all the women in the family. And so when Nia gets the powers instead of her older sister, it's this real like bone of contention, you know, and even she's like, I don't want this. Like, this was always supposed to be my sister. She was the one who was prepared. And she's like, I wasn't born female. It never occurred to me that this would happen.
Right.
And so then it becomes kind of a rift in the family, like between the sisters. And so there's just a lot going on. You know what I mean? There's a lot. It's a coming of age story. It's a coming to terms with, you know, who you are and accepting who you are. And, you know, on top of that, it's just a good like superhero origin story. So I really liked it. And towards the end of it, Nia meets these characters, this character called Galaxy, who had her own graphic novel, which I'd always wanted to read, and I didn't realize there was any connection. And so I think it spoiled a little bit of the Galaxy story for me. But as soon as I finished Bad Dream, I picked up Galaxy because we have it here in the collection, and I'm also enjoying that. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's a double whammy. I would suggest both of them. And if you want to read them, I would say read Galaxy first, because there are some, it's not going to ruin anything really, but like you kind of know more about Galaxy going in.
Got you.
If you do it that way. So yeah, the book is Bad Dream by Nicole Maines, and I would also recommend Galaxy, and that is by Jadzia Axelrod. So you can check that out right here.
Jadzia? Like
Yeah.
Jadzia Dax?
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, the ages, it probably is. It's probably connected to Jadzia
I do think
Dax,
Jadzia
so.
is a very pretty name.
It is. So anyway, those are some of our Pride book recommendations here, and we have a display up in the main area with Pride-themed sci-fi as well as graphic novels. So it's a pretty cool display, and I've had to refill it quite a bit, which is always
they've been going out like crazy.
a nice indication. That
I went into the YA room last night, and it was like half the books on my Pride display I want to say were gone. And I was like, oh, guess it's time to refill.
There you go. Yeah,
so
and I know
it is refilled now.
Paige, who's on staff here, just did a new display as well. So lots of cool things going on, lots of great books and movies to check out here at the David A. Howell Library, as always. Anything else you got going on that we got to talk about? Summer reading program
think so. Summer reading is coming.
Yeah.
I'm trying to prepare myself.
You just talked to an army of 7th graders here at the library.
I did.
So
they seemed pretty excited about it,
yeah.
all things considered. So
summer reading program, I mean, it's an exhausting time, but it's fun.
It
like
is.
to have the library so active.
It is.
And you just did a presentation at a conference about...
I did. About running Dungeons and Dragons at the library, which I've now been doing for like 2.5 years.
Wild.
Weekly.
Yeah. Time, right?
I know.
It marches on.
It's so weird.
As they say. Yeah. In the adult summer reading program, we have just settled on the book club we're going to be doing. It's called The Gray Ghost. It's by Clive Cussler and Robin Bursell. We're going to be doing that in late July, so the books are going to be coming in. So if you're a Clive Cussler fan, this will be a fun one to check out. It ties in with
Is there a movie based on that?
I don't think so.
I feel like there's a movie with a similar title.
Probably. It's
Sorry,
a great title.
Keep telling us about Clive Cussler.
Well, our theme is Adventure Begins at Your Library. And when you think of adventure books, I feel like Clive Cussler is a name that comes to the top. So Steve Rudd from This Endorian Life and I did a special episode of How's Things a while back about Clive Cussler. And so we're going to do a sequel to that episode, as well as a little summer reading program bonus. So you can keep an eye on the How's Things feed as well.
The movie is The Gray Man, in case anyone was
Oh,
dying of curiosity.
Yes, that is based on a book series, so by Mark Greaney, and I have read some of those books.
Oh, okay.
And the books are pretty good too. So
Cool.
yeah. I haven't seen the movie. Have you?
I have not, but
Okay.
I think it might have Ana de Armas in it, so therefore I
believe
want
it
to
does.
see it.
Yeah.
That's how that
She
works.
is good.
Yeah.
She was like the standout in that latest James Bond movie, No Time to Die. She was so good. There's a whole sequence of her in Cuba, and it's just such a fun scene. It's the most quintessential Bond scene. I loved it. I didn't love that movie, but that scene, I'm like, I would rewatch
See, yeah, that
scene
kind of
again.
makes me want to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Okay. Well, you've got a little bit more time to bone up on the Rolling Stones.
I do.
So we'll talk about that in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to hear what you think. And you've given me nothing, so I really don't know how you feel about the Rolling
I'm trying
Stones.
to save it all for the episode.
So listen along with us. Allie's main assignments again were Beggar's Banquet and their most recent Hackney Diamonds. Check them out. I recommend them. Okay. See you next
y'all
time.
later.